Thank you for coming to my presentation today, a qualitative study of arts-based research within the Artitude project. The current study, Connecting Creativity, aimed to examine the effective use of arts-based research within the Artitude project, and this was based on the objectives to understand engagement, community response, and logistics of using arts-based research in this way. So for context, Artitude, which is in phase 2, is focused on using creative methods via artist facilitators to engage the Derry and Strabane communities in conversations around climate, sustainability and circularity. So you can scan the QR code at any point to find out more about their earlier outputs and future work. And as you can see here as well, Levy stated that arts-based research is not only nuanced in its methods, but in its ability to use creativity to gather new insights on various topics. And Artitude is a really useful example of that. So it's worth noting that qualitative research was chosen for its suitability to examine arts-based research because it can be iterative, engaging and reflective. And I'll just give you a moment to look on the screen for some of those examples in action and some of the quotes that were formative for my understanding. So for this study, qualitative approaches were used in the form of observational data, semi-structured interviews and a focus group. And as we can see here, the data sample is grouped into 3 groups. So group 1 being the professionals that work on Artitude, group 2 being the artists facilitating within Artitude, and group 3 being the community members engaged in the Artitude project. So thematic analysis was also used following Braun and Clark's guidance, and NVivo was used for both data management as well as reflective practice. So this was particularly important for me because I was balancing my role of partner in researcher, which involved interviewing colleagues. So reflexivity was very useful, and NVivo helped with that majorly. So as mentioned, the study is in its final stages of data collection and analysis, with the focus group with communities planned for January 2026. But I would like to now draw your attention to some preliminary findings. Interestingly, early findings have confirmed that artists and facilitators involved in arts-based research typically see this work as quite fluid and open, and that marries a lot of the literature I've been reading for this study. And there seems to be more of a focus on enjoyment rather than outputs. However, in comparison, it would appear that community members are expected to, although be generally quite open to this idea, they do want more boundaries within the facilitation, whether that be structure within the workshops, but they would also like to see more tangible outputs to measure their contribution. And these findings are based on conversations with the professionals involved in Artitude who have worked with community members in the past. But it also interestingly marries the observational data conducted for this study, which involved a observation of a community consultation with the community that may become involved in Artitude in the future. So in terms of community ownership, I would like to draw your attention to the quote, it could be something small like a wee community garden. And similarly to boundaries within facilitation, I would like to draw your attention to the quote, it can be difficult for people to play in groups of adults. So these are things I'll be thinking of going forward in the research with the community members, and certainly something I imagine will be built on in the findings and discussions chapter. So finally, when this work is complete, dissemination will include an impact report for both the Artitude project and funders. However, as you can see here, when we think about output, we often think about accessibility, creativity and credibility. So in keeping with the tone of creativity, I will also prioritise creative dissemination, and this will involve working with 2 creative consultations on the Artitude project, and it will be a graphic or interactive chart titled The Steps to Arts-Based Research in Co-Design. So again, I'll just give you a moment to look at some of the findings and literature on this slide. But yes, all this to say is thank you for listening to my presentation today. And if you have any questions about Artitude or this current study, please do get in touch. And lastly, I would just like you to draw your attention to the reference list. So again, any questions about the literature or the wider project, please do email me. Thank you.